Hello and welcome to Warriors Weekly, a show in which we go by page of every single book in the Warriors series and then talk about each named character that appears in the story, while drawing them. The subject of today's video is going to be Rusty, also known as Firepaw, also known as Fireheart, also known as Firestar, also known as Mersu. I will be quite honest here. I have no idea why people insisting on calling Firestar Mersu. Because if you read the original piece of fiction in which Mersu appeared, her character and the one of Firestar's have nothing to do with each other. Same goes for the plot and how it goes. Also, there is no connection there. Yet people insist on calling Firestar Mersu. Why is that? Some will say that this is because Firestar does not have any story arc to his own and doesn't have to work out any major problems that are his own. That he only reacts to things that happen around him. Which is quite obviously not true. Throughout the whole first series of the books, Firestar has this one major thing that he has to work out. You see, he does not have the same upbringing the clan-born cats have, and that's so. He has a different culture he was raised in, and he has a different moral code. You can see how his personal moral code clashes with the one supported by the clans. The very first day, Firepaw joins Thunder Clan. When he's given the tour of the Thunder Clan territory, he's confused. Why do not clans share food with one another? And again, this comes into play when Fireheart learns that River Clan is starving and decides to steal some prey and give it to River Clan. This is an act of treachery, something that goes against several points of warrior code. No clan-born cat would thought about doing this. And so, during the first 6 books, Fireheart has to work out how to apply the unique perspective he has to the clan's law. And you see him struggle several times when he has to choose, because his head tells him that something has to be done, that something is not right, but doing what he feels is right is against the warrior code. And so he often has to find the way in the middle, something between 2 options. And so in the end of the books, we see that he integrated fully into clans, he accepted culture, but he didn't lose his own perspective at the same time. That is quite an important lesson in today's world, when people travel a lot and often children won't grow up in the same place they were born. It is important to accept the new culture but not lose your old one, and use your old experience to help you cope with the new things. Another major story arc for Fireheart that we see in the first series, we see in Fire and Ice. You see there that Fireheart goes through something that many teenage girls do. His friend found a romantic partner, and now that he has a mate, he just acts like he doesn't need Fireheart anymore. That tends to happen when a teenage girl gets her first boyfriend, that she's overwhelmed with these new feelings and sometimes do not care enough for their old friends. But for Fireheart this is even more difficult, because he has no family in the clan and no other very close friend. At this point Ravenpaw is living with Barley in the barn, so Fireheart cannot turn to him. Bluestar is too busy with being a leader, and Fireheart is no longer her apprentice, so he cannot have as much interactions with her as he used to. And so what Fireheart does? He turns to the only other thing he knows, to kitty pet lifestyle. He finds his long-lost sister, and suddenly he realizes how much he needed someone who understood many things about him that no clan-born cat could. Someone who understood this conflict that was inside of him however, this relation with his sister is not without consequences, because in the end, Fireheart basically becomes a single father when his prolonged meetings with Princess results in Princess deciding that she should give her firstborn son to be raised in the forest. And now Fireheart has to struggle again, now to be a single parent to a child that is quite rebellious and causes many troubles. And in the end, he fails as a father. He tries to explain to Cloudpaw why being a warrior is so important and why he cannot be both a warrior and a kitty pet at the same time. But he fails to explain this to his nephew, and he fails to raise Cloudpaw to be a respectful apprentice. And in the end, Cloudpaw is caught by Tulex. It's only thanks to Ravenpaw and StarClan that Cloudpaw is not lost forever. And even then, when Cloudpaw becomes Cloudtail and lives with the clan once again, Fireheart still failed to install in his nephew's mind the same values Fireheart believes in himself. He failed to raise his adopted child in such a way that Cloudtail would believe in StarClan, and that's something that many parents have to deal with. Their child is their own person and they might do not believe the same thing that they do. But the biggest inner struggle Fireheart goes through in the first book series comes in the last volume. There, Fireheart has a huge crisis of faith when he believes for a time that Blood Clan is so much stronger and invincible because they do not believe in StarClan. He starts to wonder if believing in StarClan is more of the burden that it is help. And this struggle is concluded when Fireheart stops having doubts in his heart and understands that faith is all, that faith is what gives him the strength he has, that faith is what will help him to prevail. Whereas the ones that spit in the face of the faith will fall. However, Firestar's journey does not end there. We see him also struggle as a leader. He's not a natural. Even in the first series, when he was made a leader by Bluestar, he struggled a lot and he had to rely on Wildstorm because he himself was unable even to schedule patrols. He also made a grave mistake when he decided to give Fernpaw to be mentored by Darkstripe instead of Sandstorm. This not only results that later, when Darkstripe proves to be a traitor, that Fernpaw is left without a mentor, but also later when Firestar has to choose his own deputy, he realized that he would choose Sandstorm, but he cannot because she had no apprentice yet, and it's all because he made a wrong decision back when he was still a deputy. We see him struggle as a leader, even in the new prophecy. Firestar has to deal with the fact that his dear friend, Greystripe, is gone, and that he's probably never going to come back, and yet he stubbornly refuses to do so, even though this way he makes clan suffer and become weaker. ThunderClan is facing such awful times when the forest is being destroyed, and yet he refuses to appoint a new deputy, instead making several senior warriors share the job. Also in the new prophecy, Firestar nearly destroys ThunderClan and WindClan by stubbornly refusing to move out without ShadowClan and RiverClan following. In his heart, Firestar believes that the only right thing to do is to have all 4 clans follow. But this results in ThunderClan growing weaker and weaker, and WindClan nearly starves to death, just because of Firestar's stubbornness. And do not forget about Firestar's story arc in Firestar's quest, when Sandstorm learns that Firestar is still meeting his dead first girlfriend, Spotted Leaf, and Firestar has to deal with the consequences of that. And he, Sandstorm, and Spotted Leaf have to work out some sort of compromise. Sadly, in the 3rd and 4th series, Firestar tends to fade into the background. At first, it seems that he's being set up to play a bigger part in The Power of the Three and The Omen of the Stars, as he is the one that is given the original prophecy about the power of the Three. Later we see the horror he feels when he realizes that J-Kid, Lion Kid and Holy Kid most likely are the Three. This horror seems to imply that he might do some rash decisions in the future, like when Cinderpearl received Fire and Tiger prophecy and Firestar responded with trying to keep Squirrelpaw and Brambleclaw as tired and busy as possible. Sadly, Power of the Three and Omen of the Stars never follow on that. Firestar fades in the background and doesn't do really much, as the main protagonists do not seem to interact with him all that much. And that's why in the end, when in the Omen of the Stars it is revealed that Firestar is meant to be the 4th cat in the prophecy, this doesn't really feel all that organic, almost as if the writers were trying to forcefully glue Firestar on, just to have him do the main thing. It's almost as if writers forgot that Firestar was to play such a big part, and hadn't remembered about this till the very end, when they realized that have to do something quick. Maybe that's why nowadays readers tend to call Firestar Mary Sue, because they feel that this big climax we got in the Omen of the Stars, he was forced into it and didn't really deserve this part in the plot. But what do you think? Why do you believe that people insist on calling Firestar a Mary Sue? Do you yourself believe that Firestar is a Mary Sue? Please write all of your thoughts in the comments below. But this is all for today. See you again next week in another Weekly Warriors. Bye bye!